Hey, History Through Film. Welcome to U2-L5, Intro to the AAGPBL. All right, so your job, you're going to answer any questions that are in blue text, are going to be ones I want you to answer directly on the Edpuzzle. Learning goals. Students will be able to summarize the history and impact of the AAGPBL on American society. So, AAGPBL, what does it stand for? It stands for the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. So here's my question for you. Do you know anything about the AAGPBL? And do you know anything about women in baseball? And if you don't know anything, that's A-okay. Just say, I don't know, or something like that. All right, so we learned about World War II in U2L2 and U2L3. So name two things you learned about World War II. Yeah, there's a lot. World War II has a lot of stuff going on. So World War II in baseball. So men with quote unquote non-essential jobs were sent to the war effort and drafted into the military. And this included professional athletes. So although even today we think of professional athletes as like these crazy great people, during World War II, they were not exempted from the draft. A lot of them got drafted. Baseball at this time was a huge source of entertainment. So remember, there's no TVs or internet during the 1940s. So people would be entertained by movies, concert radios, and yes, of course, live sporting events. So with pro athletes away, pro teams weren't making any money. And this really, really upset this dude right here. His name is Philip Wrigley. Yes, named after the Wrigley Field of the Chicago Cubs. So he owned a chewing gum manufacturer, which you can still buy their gum today. And he was the owner of the Chicago Cubs as well. So what do you think he did to solve that problem of not making any money? Now, just take your best guess. I don't want any I don't knows. I don't want any Googling either. Just take your best guess. All right, so in 1943, Wrigley sponsored and formed a women's softball league. Okay, not baseball league yet. Right now, we're talking about softball. Baseball will come later. So the All-American Girls Softball League. So 300 women from across the US and Canada came to try out. Only 60 were chosen to become full-time players, and they ranged in age from 15 into their upper 20s. So take a look at this photo. What do you notice about the kinds of players in the league? Yeah, it was only white women. No people of color could play. Even though black women were an essential part in the war effort, just as much as white women were the only ones allowed to play baseball in the league. All right, so there were 4 teams total. There was the Racine Bells, which was in Wisconsin, the Rockford Peaches, which was in Illinois, Kenosha Comets in Wisconsin, South Bend Blue Sox in Indiana. Women were paid $45 per week, which, of course, this was like 80 plus years ago. So the average salary for white women was $32 a week at this time period. So $45 a week is pretty dang good. Families were very reluctant to send daughters to the softball or the baseball teams. This is because men typically controlled women during this time period. Women couldn't do finances on their own. They couldn't buy large items without a man's permission. So like a woman, if she wanted to buy a house or a car, she could not do that unless there was a man to like co-sign with her. And women were just allowed into the workforce in the start of World War II, which was about 1941. And this was due to the war and also men being away fighting. And playing baseball professionally was the first time this had ever happened in American history. So what do you notice between these two photos? Okay, so this photo over here on the left is the 1940s MLB Cincinnati players. To the right here, we have Rockford Peaches in 1943. So my hint for you is to take a look at the clothes. So, are skirts practical for playing baseball? Yeah, that would be Hard no. That's right. So women had to play with skirts. As you see, men had these long pants to protect their legs from all the dirt and the debris. Women, no, they didn't get that option. So women would run and catch balls and fly into the fence line. They would slide. And yes, they had to do it all in skirts. All right, so men had concerns about women playing professional sports. Some men saw these women as quote unquote unfeminine. Wrigley was aware of these concerns, so he made sure that the women players were still quote unquote ladylike, hence why they had to wear skirts. So players' uniforms were dresses with shorts underneath. You can kind of see it here. She's sliding. There's little shorts underneath, so can't see everything. They also had a belt to highlight feminine curves. They couldn't wear batting helmets because that was thought to be too masculine. So I guess, it's too masculine to not wear, wear protection instead of getting hit in the head with a speeding baseball or softball. Skirts also left bare skin, which means that sliding became a lot more painful, as you can probably see by her facial expression right there. So one of the old players, her name was Doris, she said, "Believe me, you haven't lived until you slid on skin," because pants were seen as too masculine. Women on their menstrual cycles still had to play as well. And a lot of these uniforms, like this one right here, this was pretty much probably light pink or light yellow. That meant there was typically a lot of blood stains on the skirts as well. So not a great time for women, at least uniform-wise. Wrigley also hired professional cosmetic women. Players were forced to be educated in makeup tutorials, charm courses. Charm courses are how to speak and act like a lady. So how to femininely put on a coat. So you just couldn't put on a coat. You had to do it a certain way. How to walk up and down stairs like a lady. How to cross your legs like a lady. And a lot of these women would develop Charlie horses, which is this leg cramp, and walk downstairs with a book on their head. They also had to speak in a low voice and enunciate words. All right, so after the game, players had to redo their makeup before they saw the media. If a player got injured, like there's blood or bruises or black eyes, they had to cover it up with makeup. Players would get fined if they didn't wear lipstick, and they also had to endure any trash talk that they got from male fans. But it was more than just a game. It really boosted home front morale. So male and female workers from factories would attend games after work because this was a good way of entertainment. Ticket proceeds also went to the war effort, and players would go and actually visit wounded soldiers in the hospitals. In 1944, that was the second season for the league with one major change. It was now officially baseball. Okay, so no more softball. This is women in baseball now. So the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, or the AAGPBL. Sometimes it is also referred to the All-American Girls Baseball League, the AAGBBL. They're the same thing, just different acronyms. In 1944, there were two more teams added. We had the Milwaukee Chicks, which were from Wisconsin, and the Minneapolis Millerettes, which I hope you know what state Minneapolis is in. And in 1945, World War II ended. So Wrigley didn't see the need for the AAGPBL anymore because the male professional athletes were returning home. So they'll have male professional baseball now. So Wrigley decided to sell it off to another man named Arthur Meyerhoff. But Wrigley was very, very wrong in his investment because in 1945, the AAGPBL attendance doubled from the previous year. And at the highest point of the league, there would be a total of 15 teams. Wow. In 1954, over half of Americans then owned TV sets. So they would watch the MLB and other sports game on TV. That would be more popular than attending in person. Women were expected to become housewives again, so they're pretty much kicked out of the factories. They had to return back to the housewife life. And the popularity of the AAGPBL fell in the 50s, partly due to mismanagement as well. And in September 5th, 1954, was the last game for the AAGPBL. But there is more to the story. This slideshow is just the abbreviated version. And if you want to learn more, you're not required to. But if, I don't know, you're interested in sports history or women history or U.S. history, here are some other good resources to look at. This is the book that I used to make the slideshow. I also looked at this book too. That was all right. This one was good too. This one we'll do some readings from a little bit later in the unit. All right, let's wrap this up. Today we learned about the brief history of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Next up, you're going to do U2-L6, a team of their own documentary, and then you'll continue that into L7. L8 will be the AAGPBL primary source reading, which I get from this book right here. U2-L9, baseball video choice, and then U2-L10, intro to a league of their own. If you have any questions or concerns or want to learn more, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.